It came in at 7:42 a.m. The group chat buzzed like it always did, half muted, half ignored. I was brushing my teeth when I glanced at the notification, not expecting anything but maybe a half-hearted HBD or a forwarded meme. Instead, there it was. "No one's coming to your party, grow up." From my mother. In the family group chat. I read it once. Then again. The second time was just to confirm the punctuation. No emojis, no love you, no irony. Just a single deliberate sentence tossed into a digital room full of people I used to try to matter to. I spat the toothpaste rinsed and walked to the living room. The air was still. I sat down, unlocked my phone, and replied with one word. Understood. Then I opened my banking app. The rent payment was already queued $3,000 like clockwork. It wasn't my rent. It was theirs. My parents' monthly lease for a 3-bedroom ranch in Arvada with a leaky roof and a fireplace no one ever lit. I'd been paying it for 4 years. I canceled the auto transfer. My heart didn't race. My fingers didn't shake. It felt like clicking unsubscribe on an old email newsletter you never signed up for but kept receiving anyway. Then I archived the group chat. The silence that followed wasn't angry. It was clean. The kind of clean that comes when something is removed from your life, not added. I sat there for a while watching the blinking cursor on my screen, waiting for the next message that didn't come. No just kidding, no follow-up. Just digital silence. I got up and made coffee. Black, no sugar. The bitterness felt honest. I sat at the table and sipped slowly, watching sunlight creep across the floor, warm and indifferent. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. But something inside me shifted like a lock turning for the first time in years. Something that had been stuck now moved with purpose. I looked at the calendar on the fridge. A red circle marked today, Elena's 28th, in my own handwriting. I took the magnet off and threw it in the trash, then opened my laptop and logged into the car tracker account. The next morning, I drove to Arvada just after sunrise. Their street was still quiet, the kind of quiet that blankets a place before people start pretending everything's fine again. I didn't knock. I didn't even park. I pulled up to the curb, pressed the unlock button on my phone, and watched the sedan's lights blink twice. The same car I'd bought 2 years ago when Dad said his back couldn't handle the bus anymore. It was still clean. Of course it was. Kaya had it detailed monthly on my card. I stepped out, opened the driver's side door, and slid in. There was a gym bag in the back, some old receipts in the console, and a half-used air freshener hanging from the mirror. I didn't touch any of it. I just started the engine and drove off. No one came out to stop me. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel anything, really. Just a calm sort of closure, like finishing a chapter of a book that stopped making sense a long time ago. Back home, I called the credit card company. I told them I wanted to close every card authorized under my name. When they asked for a reason, I said, "No longer safe." That was all. Then I took a long shower, the kind where you stand there without thinking. No music, no timeline. Just water and steam, and the slow peeling away of a version of myself I didn't owe them anymore. By noon, I'd shredded 2 expired cards and packed the car keys in a drawer I didn't open often. The group chat was still silent. No new messages, no missed calls. That night, I pulled out a folder I hadn't opened in months, labeled Kaya Proof. I was 24 when it started. Just got promoted to full-time at the healthcare software company. It wasn't glamorous, but the paycheck cleared every 2 weeks and came with decent benefits. I remember telling them on a Sunday call, feeling proud. They didn't say congratulations. Mom just sighed and said, "That's a blessing, especially now that things are tight over here. It began with 1 rent payment, just this month. Your dad's hours got cut again. Then it was groceries. Your sister needs real food, not ramen. Then the electric bill. Your mom's back acts up when it gets cold. By year 2, I was covering the rent, gas, phone bills, the cat's vet visits, Kaya's car insurance, and anything they described as urgent. They never demanded. They just implied. You're the stable one now. We gave you everything. It's your turn." Kaya didn't work much. She said she was building a wellness brand. Mostly, she posted filtered yoga poses on Instagram and went on spontaneous weekend trips. I never saw anyone in the photos but her and a rotating cast of boyfriends. One of those boyfriends crashed the old Corolla. That's when I bought the newer car. Registered under my name, monthly payments on my card. She picked the color midnight blue. She took selfies in it constantly. One caption read, "So grateful for those who believe in me. You know who you are." She didn't tag me. Mom would text me after. Wasn't that post sweet? She really does appreciate you even if she's not good with words. I nodded and said I was glad. But it didn't feel like appreciation. It felt like obligation disguised as flattery. Every month I told myself I'd pull back. I'd stop one bill. I'd say no to just one thing. But the moment I hesitated, the guilt came in waves. We're your family, Elena. You think strangers would ever do this for you, and every time I gave in. I told myself I was being kind, that this is what good daughters do. But sitting there now, holding the folder of receipts and bank transfers, I saw it clearly. They never saw any of it as kindness. They treated it like restitution, like I owed them for being born. I flipped the folder shut and placed it next to my laptop. On the screen, a notification popped up. Kaya had posted another story. I tapped it open. She was poolside again. The caption said, "Healing requires space." I drove 5 hours that Thanksgiving morning with a pie in the passenger seat and a bottle of Pinot tucked under my jacket. I hadn't told anyone I was coming. I thought it'd be a good surprise. Maybe a little awkward at first, but warm eventually. Maybe they'd even be happy. I knocked with my elbow holding the pie. The door creaked open and Mom blinked at me like I was the mailman. "Oh," she said. "You came." She called over her shoulder, "Kaya, tell Josh to hide the gifts your sister's here." I didn't ask what gifts. I already knew they weren't mine. Inside, everything felt too lived in, too settled, like a party I'd wandered into by mistake. Josh emerged from what used to be my room wearing socks I recognized. No one offered to move him. That night, I slept on the couch under a fleece blanket that smelled faintly like old Febreze and disappointment. At dinner, Don raised his glass. Let's hear it for the woman who pays the bills but can't hold down a boyfriend. Laughter rippled across the table like it was a harmless joke, like I hadn't driven for hours to be there, like my presence was a performance they never asked for but still expected. Kaya snorted fork halfway to her mouth. Even Josh laughed. He didn't even know me. I smiled faintly and drank my wine. Then I got up, cleared the plates, washed the dishes. When the sink backed up, I took out my wallet and called a plumber. He came in the middle of dessert. Afterward, no one thanked me. Mom patted my shoulder and said, "Next year, just tell us first." Okay? We had plans. On the drive back, I didn't play music. I didn't call anyone. I watched the road stretch into dark silence and realized I felt lighter driving away than I ever had arriving. A week later, a coworker leaned over my desk and said, "Hey, wasn't that your sister I saw on Explore? Looked like a fun cabin trip." I opened Instagram and there they were. Mom, Don, Kaya, and Josh, all in matching beanies holding mugs by a fireplace. I zoomed in on Kaya's mug. It said, "Best daughter ever." It started with a notification buzz while I was working remotely from my apartment. I figured someone had sent a birthday meme or maybe a forwarded coupon code standard group chat noise. But when I opened the app, the entire thread was lit up. Dad had posted a screenshot of my Amazon birthday wish list. A few pairs of socks, some shampoo, I liked a pack of pens. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive. Just small things I never remembered to buy for myself. "Look at this grown woman asking for socks and lotion," he wrote. "Guess we didn't raise her tough enough." Then came the clown emoji. Then a meme of a girl with a party hat and the caption, "Guess who's turning 12 again?" Kaya reacted with a laughing emoji and followed up with bet. She expects us to gift wrap it too. No one defended me. Not Mom, not my aunt, not the cousin who once cried when I helped her pay for her nursing exams. Just reaction emojis and punchlines like I was the group's entertainment. I didn't respond. I didn't leave the chat. I just started screenshotting. Not because I planned to get even, not because I needed revenge, just because for the first time I needed to see the whole picture without emotion. I wanted to know I wasn't imagining it, that the cruelty was real and not just my own sensitivity echoing back at me. That night, I saved the screenshots into a new folder, labeled it plainly Receipts. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I didn't want to forget. The next morning, Kaya posted a story, another poolside photo, a matcha in her hand, captioned, "Surround yourself with people who uplift you." I looked at the pool tiles in the background. It was a hotel I knew. I'd paid for her weekend there last month when she said she needed time to reset her energy. My phone buzzed again. A new message in the group chat. "Mom power's about to get shut off again. Not sure what we're supposed to do." I didn't answer. I just opened my credit monitoring app and refreshed the screen. The first red flag came from an email. "Your monthly loan balance is now available." I didn't recognize the lender. I hadn't taken out a loan, at least not one I remembered. I clicked the link, logged in with my social, and there it was. $8,400 opened in my name, with Dawn listed as the co-borrower. The application date was from last spring, around the time they said their roof needed repairs. I remembered getting a cryptic message from Mom, then pray for clear skies. We can't afford another storm. I never thought to ask what she meant. The next day, I pulled my credit report. That's when I saw the Target card. Opened 2 years ago. My name, my credit, my address. Not mine. When I confronted her, Mom replied with a dismissive text. "You weren't even using it. Stop being dramatic." That word again, dramatic. It followed me like a shadow. The same week, a coworker named Julian mentioned Kaya in the break room. He said he ran into her at a gallery opening. She said, "You're like on the spectrum or something I didn't know." But it makes sense. "You're super quiet." I just nodded, smiled like it didn't sting. Then I went back to my desk and opened another folder. This one I named Backup, for real. I started collecting everything. Screenshots, emails, payment records, texts, voice messages, and Instagram captions where Kaya flaunted things I'd paid for. I found the voicemail Mom left me the day Kaya's tuition was due, screaming through tears. "She'll end up like you if we don't get her out of here. Is that what you want?" It didn't matter that I wasn't on the spectrum. What mattered was how convenient it was for them to say I was. How easy it made everything else make sense, the silence, the distance, the fact that I never fought back. But I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't being graceful. I was just vanishing slowly and politely from my own life while they lived comfortably on the borrowed credit of my quiet compliance. So I started pressing record. Every call, every voicemail. Not to make a scene, just to have proof in case the world ever asked why I finally stopped showing up. That proof would become my map out. 3 weeks passed with nothing but silence. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, Kaya texted Mom, says, "Come by tonight. Family dinner. We want to clear the air." I stared at the message for a while. It didn't feel like an apology. It felt like a summons. I said yes. That evening, I pulled into the driveway at 6:59 p.m. In my bag, a laptop, a backup drive, and a folder labeled in permanent marker truth. I didn't wear anything special. Just clean jeans and a sweater. I wasn't there to perform. I was yen for the day of LZ. I was there to finish something. They greeted me like nothing had happened. Mom kissed my cheek. Dad handed me a beer. Kaya grinned like she'd already won. The table was set with mismatched plates and overcooked pasta. The chairs still wobbled from years of ignoring the screws I offered to fix. They talked first. About forgiveness. About moving forward. About how my recent distance had hurt them. Then Mom said it like a nail tapping glass. "You're still part of this family, but you've made mistakes too." I took a slow breath, reached into my bag, and opened the laptop. No one stopped me. The first clip was Mom's voicemail, the one where she shouted at me to pay Kaya's tuition before she ends up like you. The second was Kaya's voice laughing on speaker. "She always pays. Makes her feel useful." Then the screenshots, rent payments, DMs, bank transfers, group chats. I slid the screen toward them and leaned back. They didn't speak, just stared. Mom blinked fast. Dad reached for his beer but missed. Kaya's jaw clenched, but she didn't say a word. I opened the folder. Inside were printed emails, loan statements, the Target card notice, and at the top, a single page with my credit report circled in red. When I spoke, it was quiet. You don't get to ask for peace when you've only ever offered control. I reached for the USB stick and walked to the living room, their smart TV powered on with a chime. The screen lit up with the loan application Dawn's name as primary, mine as co-signer. I let them stare at it in silence. "You used my social without asking," I said, eyes on my father. "You put me on the hook for your debt." He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "It's already reported. They've frozen the account. You'll get the fraud notice next week." Mom's breath caught. Kaya let out a dry laugh. "You're so dramatic. What's next? You going to sue us?" I smiled, then walked back to the door. "No," I said, "but he might." I pulled it open, and Jake stepped in. Kaya froze. Her smirk dropped like a switch had flipped. He held a black folder in one hand and didn't look at her. He sat across from her and set it on the table. "You want to tell them," he said, "or should I?" Kaya stood up. "Why are you here?" Jake opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of messages, edited timestamps, mismatched fonts. Beneath them, a transcript of voice memos Kaya had spliced to make it sound like he'd screamed at her. The metadata showed the audio file had been created on her laptop, not his phone. At the bottom was a handwritten plan in her looping cursive titled, "How to Emotionally Destabilize Him Before the Breakup." Mom covered her mouth. Dawn didn't move. Jake's voice stayed level. "You told everyone I hurt you. You told Elena I was dangerous. You said I stalked you." Kaya snapped. "You don't get to. You're not the victim Jake cut in. You're the villain. And I'm done pretending." He stood and walked to the door without waiting for a reply. I followed him, then turned back once more. "You wanted me to be the good daughter," I said, the quiet wallet. "But I'm done playing the part." I grabbed my bag and laptop and stepped out into the night. Behind me, I heard the shouting start, Margot calling Kaya's name. Dawn, demanding I come back, something heavy crashing against the wall. I didn't look back. Instead, I drove home in silence and woke the next morning to a blinking cursor and a folder labeled Archive. That night, I stayed up at my desk, staring at the folder I had named Archive. It held everything: screenshots, voice notes, loan documents, bank records, Kaya's captions, Mom's voicemails. Nothing dramatic, just the facts no one had ever asked for. At 1:12 a.m., I uploaded it. The post read, "When family treats you like an ATM with a heartbeat. No begging, no anger. Just a link to the evidence and one closing sentence: I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm just done pretending this is what love looks like." By morning, it had spread. Not celebrity viral, but enough to catch. Hundreds of shares, dozens of comments, some from strangers, some from people who knew them. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I'd already said everything. Dad went live from the garage by noon, said I was fragile. She doesn't know what she's doing. Behind him, a pyramid of empty beer cans. He called it forgiveness. I posted a reply. No caption, just a video of him from 3 years ago laughing. "It's fine. I used her social. She owes us." I closed the app and walked to the window. Denver looked quiet from 10 floors up. 3 weeks later, I moved into a condo on the 10th floor downtown Denver. No rent, no roommates. Fully paid through a legal trust, no forwarding address. No name on the buzzer. Just clean floors, high ceilings, and silence I didn't have to earn. No one knew where I lived, not even close friends. I didn't post about it. I didn't text pictures of the view. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The phone calls stopped. Eventually, even the cryptic posts and guilt-laced emails faded. I didn't block them, I just stopped listening. I built a new website that week. Black and white, minimal. Just a name, understood consulting. Quiet, steady. A space for people like me, those who grew up thinking love was something to buy back month after month. I didn't launch with a big announcement. No press. Just a simple line on the homepage. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. I worked, I slept, I healed, I didn't celebrate my birthday. But I bought a candle and lit it that night. Not for the year ahead, but for the years I survived without lighting anything at all. 3 weeks later, I screwed the plaque into the wall above my desk. Brushed steel clean font. No decoration, just words I now lived by. We don't rebuild what broke you. We build what frees you. Beneath it, a smaller plate. Matte black. Just 6 words. Guess who's not turning 12 again? I stepped back, took a breath, and smiled. Not because they'd seen it, but because they never would. This year there was no cake, no call, no chaos. Just a quiet office, a locked door, and finally a life that belonged only to me.